We already told everyone you uninvited us, my mother said, her voice perfectly steady. Don't make us look like liars, Wendy. That was 6 weeks before my wedding. 6 weeks before 200 guests would sit in white folding chairs on the lawn of a farmhouse I'd paid for with double shifts and a sold car. 6 weeks before my husband stood up at our reception, asked for the projector, and played something that turned my mother's face the color of ash. I didn't plan a confrontation. I planned a wedding. But sometimes the truth picks its own schedule. What Derek showed on that screen, I still can't believe my parents thought no one would ever find out. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop where you're watching from and your local time in the comments. I love reading those. I'm Wendy. I'm 29. I'm a nurse in a small town in Georgia. Now let me take you back to March, the night Derek proposed, and everything started to unravel. Derek asked me on the porch of his mother's farmhouse, one knee, a ring he'd saved 11 months for, fireflies blinking across the pasture like tiny witnesses. I said yes before he finished the sentence. I called my parents 20 minutes later. My hands were still shaking. My mother picked up on the second ring. I told her. She said congratulations, flat, like reading a receipt, then asked the date. September 14th, I said. It's the only Saturday the venue has left. Silence. Long enough for me to hear the kitchen faucet running in the background. That's Courtney's Bali launch week, you know that. I did know. My younger sister had been posting countdowns on Instagram for 2 months. A luxury wellness retreat, 500,000 followers watching. Brand deal, content calendar, the whole production. Mom, the venue won't hold the date. The deposit's already down. Your sister has 500,000 people waiting for that trip. She paused. You have, maybe 200 guests? I wish I could tell you that surprised me. It didn't. When I graduated nursing school, my parents arrived 45 minutes late because they were driving Courtney to a casting call in Atlanta. When I made honor roll in 10th grade, I taped the certificate on the fridge next to Courtney's pageant photos. It was gone by morning. I always told myself it wasn't personal. Courtney was the bright one, the visible one. I was the reliable one. Reliable doesn't need applause. I'll talk to your father, my mother said. But Wendy, be realistic. She hung up. I sat on that porch with a ring on my finger and a knot in my stomach, and I thought, maybe this time, just this once, they'll choose me. They didn't. My father called that evening. 8:17 p.m. I remember because I was standing at the stove making pasta, and the timer on my phone read 8:17 when his name flashed across the screen. Derek was at the kitchen table. I put the call on speaker. Looking back, I'm glad I did. A witness matters. I'm going to say this once, my father said. His voice had that low, controlled register he uses when he believes the conversation is already over. Move the date, or your mother and I won't be there. Dad, the deposit is non-refundable. Then you'll lose it. That's what happens when you don't think about your family. I looked at Derek. He reached across the table and took my hand. He didn't squeeze it. He just held it. Steady, the way you hold something you're not going to let go of. I'm not moving it, Dad. 3 seconds of nothing. Then the line went dead. I stood there holding the phone, steam rising from the pot behind me. Derek said, "You okay?" And I said, "Yeah," which was a lie. But it was the kind of lie that gets you through the next 10 minutes so you can eat dinner and pretend the floor isn't tilting. My father has run our family the way he runs his hardware store. Inventory in, inventory out. No backtalk from the shelves. You do what Harold Foster says, or Harold Foster stops talking to you. I'd watched him freeze out his own brother for 2 Thanksgivings over a property line dispute. I knew exactly what won't be there meant. It wasn't a threat. It was a policy. I just didn't know yet how far that policy would reach. 10 days later, the caterer called. "Hi, this is Brenda from Magnolia Table. I'm calling because Diane Foster contacted us to cancel the deposit on her card. We need a new payment method within 10 days or we release your date." I was in the break room at the hospital, still in scrubs, coffee going cold in my hand. "She canceled it?" "Yes, ma'am, this morning." I called the florist next. Same story. Diane had phoned in, polite as Sunday morning, and pulled both deposits. The photographer was still intact. That one was on my card. Everything else was gone. $14,000. Vanished with 2 phone calls. That night, I sat on our kitchen floor with a legal pad and a calculator. Savings account, $6,200. Wedding in 14 weeks. Deficit, roughly $8,000. Derek sat down beside me, back against the cabinet, shoulder touching mine. "We sell the Civic," I said. He didn't argue. We listed my 2011 Honda the next morning, got $4,800 from a kid at the community college. I picked up 3 extra night shifts a week on top of my regular rotation. 12-hour shifts, then home to address invitations at the kitchen table until my handwriting went crooked. Derek watched me lick an envelope at 2 a.m. and said, "Let me run your credit report. We need it for the house loan anyway." I said sure, barely listening. I was calculating how many overtime hours it would take to cover the new caterer who charged by the head instead of the platter. He opened his laptop. I sealed another envelope. When I looked up 20 minutes later, Derek was staring at the screen and he hadn't moved. Not even his fingers, just frozen. "What?" I said. He didn't answer right away. Before Derek could explain what he'd found, my phone started buzzing. Not calls, texts, one after another, lighting up the screen like a slot machine nobody asked to play. "Aunt Carol, heard you told your parents not to come? That's cold, Wendy." "Uncle Gene, your mom is heartbroken. Call her." A cousin I hadn't spoken to since Thanksgiving. "Family is forever. Don't do this." I scrolled through 11 messages in 4 minutes. Every single one carried the same story. That I had uninvited my own parents from my wedding. That I was being cruel. That Diane was devastated. I called Aunt Patty. She's my mother's younger sister, the only person in our family who ever looked me in the eye and said, "I see what they're doing." She picked up on the first ring. "They told everyone it was you," Patty said. No preamble. "Harold called Jean yesterday. Diane posted in the family group chat. Not directly, you know how she does it. Just a sad emoji and, 'Please pray for our family.' Classic." "What exactly did they say?" "That you banned them. And that Derek is," her words, "isolating you from the people who love you." I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. 40-plus relatives now believed I was an ungrateful daughter being controlled by her fiancé. My father had weaponized Christmas dinners and birthday cards. My mother had weaponized sympathy. "Patty, none of that is true. I know who you are, sweetheart. I'll be at that wedding." I hung up and stared at the ceiling. The damage was already spreading, root deep, through every branch of the family tree, and I didn't know yet that my mother was about to take it one step further, to someone I actually cared about impressing. 2 days later, Derek came home from his mother's house looking like someone had rearranged the furniture inside his chest. "My mom got a phone call," he said. He sat across from me at the table, hands flat, the way he does when he's choosing words carefully. "A woman named Diane called her, told her you have emotional instability, said she should, quote, keep an eye on you." The room tilted. Not dramatically, just a slow, quiet tilt, like a picture frame sliding off a nail. My mother had called Ruth Calloway, my future mother-in-law, a woman I'd only known 8 months, a woman whose respect I was still earning. And Diane had called her to plant a seed that I was broken. Canceling the deposits, I could handle. Turning the relatives against me, I could stomach. But calling Derek's mother to sabotage the only new family I was building, that was different. That wasn't punishment. That was demolition. "What did your mom say?" I asked. She said, "I've spent 30 years in a courtroom. I know what manipulation sounds like." Ruth Calloway had worked as a clerk at the county courthouse until she retired. She'd sat through custody battles, fraud hearings, protection orders. She didn't rattle. "She recorded the call," Derek said. "Georgia's a one-party consent state. She said if we ever need it, it's ours." I sat with that for a long time. Then I said the truest thing I'd said in weeks. "I'm not fighting them, Derek. I'm just done explaining myself." From that point forward, all communication with my parents went through text, written record only. I didn't block them. I didn't yell. I simply stopped performing the role of the grateful daughter, and I didn't invite them back. Courtney FaceTimed me on a Tuesday night. She was in her studio apartment, ring light glowing behind her, lashes on, content ready even at 9 p.m. Her whole life was a set, and she never stepped off it. Just move it, it's one day. It's my wedding. And it's my career. Since when does your career outrank my marriage? She tilted her head the way she does when she thinks she's being patient with someone slower. Since it pays for Mom and Dad's new roof. That stopped me. I didn't know Courtney was funding anything for our parents. Or, more accurately, I didn't know our parents were telling Courtney she was funding them. What roof? Dad said the estimate was $12,000. I covered half, brand money. She shrugged like it was nothing, like writing a $6,000 check to your parents at 25 was just the price of being the favorite. Courtney, listen to me. I'm not moving the date. Then you're going to lose them. I already lost them. A long time ago. She blinked. For half a second something cracked behind the ring light. A flicker of recognition, maybe guilt. Then it sealed shut. Just do what they want when. It's easier. Easier for who? She ended the call. I stood in the kitchen holding my phone and something Courtney said kept circling, since it pays for Mom and Dad's new roof. Courtney thought she was the family benefactor. She had no idea, or maybe she did, that my parents had other funding sources with my name on them. When Derek finished pulling my full credit report the next morning, we found out exactly where the roof money really came from. Before I could process what Derek found, my father went nuclear. Harold Foster sent a message to the family group chat. 32 people, 3 generations, from Aunt Patty to my 17-year-old cousin in Jacksonville. Diane and I will not attend Wendy's wedding. She has made it clear that our family traditions don't matter to her. We hope she'll come around. Please respect our decision and give us privacy during this painful time. Painful time. Like he was the one selling his car and picking up night shifts. The responses piled up. Not for me, for them. So sorry, Harold. Praying for you both. She'll regret this one day. An aunt I hadn't seen since 2019 sent me a private message. Shame on you, Wendy. An uncle wrote, your parents gave you everything. Everything. They gave Courtney everything. They gave me a social security number to borrow against, but I didn't know that part yet, not fully. I turned off my phone. I was sitting in my car in the hospital parking lot. My shift started in 20 minutes. The sky was that deep Georgia purple it gets right before it goes black. Derek texted on the old phone, the one I kept for emergencies. Come home. We need to talk about what I found. I didn't go home. I went into my shift, because rent doesn't care about family drama, and the ER doesn't pause for heartbreak. I coded 3 patients that night, held a woman's hand while we waited for her husband to arrive, changed my gloves 19 times. 12 hours later, I walked through our front door. Derek was sitting at the kitchen table with a manila folder, a legal pad, and a look I'd never seen on his face before, something between fury and math. Derek pushed the folder across the table. 3 credit cards, he said. All in your name. Capital One. Discover. City. I opened the folder. 3 account summaries. My name, my social security number, my parents' home address, the one I'd moved out of 7 years ago. Total outstanding balance, $47,300. I turned the pages slowly. Each statement was a map of someone else's life. A round-trip flight to Tulum, a 5-night stay at a resort in the Maldives, a $1,400 camera lens from B&H Photo, $3,000 at Nordstrom in a single afternoon. Every transaction matched. Tulum. Courtney posted poolside photos in March. The Maldives, her most liked reel ever in November. The camera lens, she'd unboxed it on her story with the caption, investing in my craft. They opened the first one when you were 19, Derek said. He'd already cross-referenced the dates. Same day you signed the paperwork for your nursing school loan. Your dad co-signed that loan. He had every piece of information he needed. I stared at the paper. My father had taken the documents I handed him in trust. My social security card, my proof of enrollment, my signature on a student loan application, and used them to open a credit line in my name. Then he did it again. And again. That's my parents, I said. It came out quiet. Not disbelief. Recognition. The slow, sick click of something finally making sense. Derek's jaw was tight. Wendy, that's a federal crime. I didn't answer. I just kept looking at the numbers. $47,000 of debt I'd never spent a cent of, sitting on my credit like a bruise I couldn't see. My parents hadn't just boycotted my wedding, they'd been borrowing against my future for 10 years. The next evening, Ruth Calloway came to our house. She didn't bring casserole or small talk, she brought her phone and a Ziploc bag with a USB drive inside it, because Ruth Calloway is the kind of woman who backs things up. I saved the recording, she said, settling into the chair at our kitchen table like she'd done this 100 times at the courthouse. The full call, 4 minutes, 37 seconds. She pressed play. My mother's voice filled the kitchen. Warm, concerned, perfectly constructed. The voice she uses at church potlucks and PTA meetings. The voice that makes people lean in and believe her. Wendy has always been difficult. Derek seems like a good man, but I worry he doesn't see it yet. She pushes people away. I just want someone in his life to watch for signs. Signs. Like I was a forecast, something to prepare for and protect against. Ruth stopped the recording. She called me to plant a seed that my future daughter-in-law is unstable. I've sat in courtrooms for 30 years. I know what manipulation sounds like. Derek's hand found mine under the table. Can I have a copy? I said. Ruth slid the USB across the table. Already on it. I didn't cry. I wanted to. Not from sadness, but from the particular kind of exhaustion that comes when someone you love confirms they never loved you the same way back. I had the credit report. I had the recording. I didn't know what I'd do with them yet, but I knew I wasn't throwing them away. You're not difficult, Wendy, Ruth said on her way out, one hand on the doorframe. You're inconvenient to people who need you to be small. I've never forgotten that sentence. I threw myself into the wedding like it was a 12-hour trauma shift. Head down, hands moving, no time for feelings. Derek and I made centerpieces from mason jars and wildflowers from the roadside stand on Route 15. $3 a bunch. We wrapped the jars in twine at the kitchen table every night after my shifts, assembly line style, while a true crime podcast played in the background because neither of us could handle silence. Ruth altered her own wedding dress for me. Ivory lace, tea-length, a little yellowed at the hem. She sat at her sewing machine for 4 evenings straight. When I tried it on and it fit, almost perfectly, just slightly loose at the waist, she pinned it and said, "You'll grow into it. Every good marriage adds a few pounds." Patty called a friend who ran a flower shop 2 towns over. Wholesale rate, half price. We moved the reception from the canceled restaurant to the Calloway family farm, the same pasture where Derek proposed. String lights from the barn supply store, rented tables, a borrowed sound system from Derek's college roommate. The RSVPs came in steady, 200 guests, most from Derek's side, his co-workers, our friends. My side of the aisle, Patty. A handful of nursing school classmates. That was it. My father called one last time, 13 days before the wedding. "Last chance, Wendy. Move the date and we'll forget this happened." "There's nothing to forget, Dad. I'll save you a seat in case you change your mind." He hung up. Patty texted me that night. "Your mom asked me not to come. I told her I'm an adult." I set the phone down, picked up a mason jar, and started wrapping twine. 14 jars to go, 13 days. I could do the math. I kept asking myself, why were my parents willing to miss their own daughter's wedding over a Bali trip? Was it really just about Courtney, or was there something else they were protecting, something that would fall apart if I stopped playing my role? Now I know the answer, but back then, I was still guessing. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace in your family and standing up for what's right? Tell me in the comments. September 14th, 71 degrees. Not a cloud. I woke up at 5:30 because my body doesn't know how to sleep past a shift alarm. The farmhouse was already lit gold. Ruth had been up since 4 arranging chairs on the lawn. I checked my phone. No messages from Harold, none from Diane, nothing from Courtney. Just a text from Patty. On my way, wearing waterproof mascara, no promises. I put on the dress in the upstairs bedroom that used to be Derek's when he was a kid. There were still model airplanes on the shelf. The lace sat cool against my skin. Ruth's stitches held perfect. Patty arrived at 9. She walked in, saw me, and her eyes went red instantly. She pressed both hands over her mouth. "I'm sorry they're not here," she whispered. "Don't be. You're here." She hugged me so tight the lace creaked. At 10 o'clock, the ceremony started. 200 people in white folding chairs on a sloped green pasture, wildflower centerpieces lining the aisle, the Callaway barn behind us like a cathedral with a tin roof. There was no one to walk me down the aisle. No father of the bride, no arm to hold. So I walked alone. I've walked into trauma bays with blood on the floor. I've told families their person didn't make it. I've held my composure through things that would flatten most people. But walking down that aisle by myself, 200 faces turning toward me, knowing my own parents chose a content calendar over this moment, that was the longest 60 feet of my life. Derek stood at the end. His eyes were wet. His hands were steady. I reached him. He took my hand. And I didn't look back. The ceremony was beautiful. I need to say that. Because what came after was loud, and the quiet parts deserve to be remembered too. Derek's best man read a passage. Patty held the rings. The officiant, a retired pastor from Ruth's church, spoke about choosing people who choose you back, and I watched 4 women in the second row reach for tissues at the same time. But I could hear the whispers. During the vows, during the pauses between words, little currents running through the crowd. "Where are her parents?" I heard she kicked them out. That's not what Diane told me. My co-worker Linda, head nurse, 23 years on the floor, afraid of absolutely nothing, leaned in during the ring exchange and squeezed my elbow. "Don't listen. You're radiant." I held it together, through the vows, through the kiss, through the applause. I held it together when Derek said, "I choose you, not because no one else would, because no one else could." I held it together when 200 people stood up and clapped and the sun broke wide open across the pasture like God was showing off. I held it together. The ceremony ended. People hugged us. Someone's kid threw wildflowers that stuck in my hair. Derek's college roommate started the music, a playlist he'd made the night before, half country, half Motown, completely wrong and completely right. We moved to the reception area. Long wood tables under the string lights, catered barbecue from a place in Macon that owed Derek a favor, mason jar centerpieces catching the late afternoon glow. 200 guests, paper napkins, real love. The ceremony was perfect. The reception was where everything changed. I saw the headlights first, a silver Buick rolling slow up the gravel drive. Deliberate. The way you'd pull into a stage entrance if you wanted the audience to notice. My father stepped out in a charcoal vest and pressed slacks. My mother followed in a floral dress and fresh lipstick, camera ready, the way she always is when she knows people are watching. Diane spotted me across the lawn and her face broke into a wide, trembling smile. She walked straight toward me, arms open, voice pitched to Carrie. "Oh, sweetheart, we couldn't miss our baby's big day." She hugged me before I could move. Her perfume hit my nose. The same Estee Lauder she's worn since I was 12, and for one terrible second, my body almost softened into it. Harold shook Derek's hand with both of his. "Welcome to the family, son." Loud, warm, performed for the 8 nearest tables. People clapped. Someone at table 4 said, "See? They came after all." A woman I didn't recognize dabbed her eyes. The prodigal parents, returning just in time. What a beautiful story. I stood frozen. My bouquet hand had gone white knuckle around the stems. I looked at Derek. He met my eyes. His jaw was set, but his gaze was calm. The same look he gets when he's finished a spreadsheet and the numbers finally make sense. He gave me the smallest nod, almost imperceptible, the kind of nod that means, I know, and I'm ready. Because here's the thing my parents didn't account for. They showed up expecting to rewrite the ending. Smiling, hugging, performing. They thought they'd won. They had no idea Derek had brought a projector. The toasts started at golden hour. Derek's best man went first. Funny, short, a story about a fishing trip that got the crowd laughing. Then Ruth said a few words about the kind of woman she'd always hoped her son would find. She looked right at me when she said it, and I almost broke. Then Derek stood up. He'd kept his jacket off all night, sleeves rolled to the elbows. He looked relaxed, but I knew better. I'd seen him prep for bank audits with less tension in his shoulders. He took the microphone from the best man and smiled at the crowd. I want to thank everyone for being here, especially the people who showed up when it wasn't easy. A murmur. A few people glanced at Harold and Diane, who were seated at a table near the back. Diane with her ankles crossed, Harold with one arm draped over his chair, both of them wearing the satisfied expressions of parents who'd made a grand entrance. I also want to talk about honesty, Derek said, because Wendy deserves that. The murmur shifted. Glasses stopped clinking. Some of you received messages saying Wendy uninvited her parents tonight. That's not what happened. Diane's smile flickered. Harold and Diane chose to boycott this wedding. Their word was teach her humility, because Wendy refused to move our date for Courtney's Bali trip. Whispers, quick ones, the kind that moved through a room like wind through tall grass. Harold pushed his chair back and stood. That's enough, son. Derek didn't flinch. I'm not your son, Harold, and I'm not done. 200 people went still. The music had stopped. Even the cicadas seemed to pause. Diane reached for Harold's arm. He shook her off. Derek set his phone on the table next to the Bluetooth speaker. 6 weeks ago, Diane called my mother. She told her that Wendy is emotionally unstable, that she pushes people away, that someone in my family should watch for signs. He looked at Diane. She had gone very still, the way a deer freezes in headlights right before it decides which way to run. My mother recorded the call. He pressed play. My mother's voice came through the speaker, clear as a church bell and twice as cold. Wendy has always been difficult. Derek seems like a good man, but I worry he doesn't see it yet. She pushes people away. I just want someone in his life to watch for signs. 200 people heard it. Every word. In my mother's own careful, concerned, rehearsed tone, the one that sounds like love, if you don't know what love actually sounds like. Diane shot to her feet. That's taken out of context. Ruth Calloway stood up from table 1, 63 years old, steel gray hair pinned back, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She didn't raise her voice. She never has to. I played the entire recording for my pastor, Ruth said. He said the same thing I did. It's manipulation. The crowd wasn't whispering anymore. They were silent. The kind of silence that has weight. Patty was crying at her seat, one hand pressed flat against the table, the other covering her mouth. She'd known her sister was cruel. She hadn't known the depth. Harold grabbed Diane's elbow. We're leaving. Derek held the microphone steady. You can leave. But there's one more thing your family needs to hear. Harold stopped walking. Derek's college roommate, the one who'd set up the sound system, pulled the white sheet tight between two barn posts. The borrowed projector hummed to life. Numbers filled the screen. 3 credit card accounts. My name at the top of each one. Below it, transaction after transaction, highlighted in yellow. Derek spoke without looking at his notes. He didn't need them. He'd memorized every line. 3 credit cards, opened in Wendy's name without her knowledge or consent. Total balance, $47,300. Gasps. Real ones, the kind you feel in your rib cage. None of this debt is hers. Every transaction matches Courtney Foster's social media posts. He pointed to the screen. Resort in Tulum, March, business class to the Maldives, November, camera equipment, Nordstrom. All charged to accounts Wendy never opened. Uncle Gene stood up halfway, then sat back down. Aunt Carol put a hand over her mouth. The woman who'd dabbed her eyes when Harold arrived now looked like she'd swallowed something sharp. Harold's voice cut through the silence. That's family business. Derek turned to face him directly. It's federal fraud. Diane was crying now, not the delicate, sympathetic kind she'd used on the phone with Ruth. This was different. Mascara streaked, involuntary. Harold grabbed Diane's arm and pulled her toward the gravel drive. The aunt who'd texted me, shame on you, Carol, stood up and followed them, but not to comfort. Harold, she said, is this true? He didn't answer. He didn't look back. The Buick doors slammed, the engine turned, gravel popped under the tires as they pulled away. I stood next to Derek, my hand on his arm, and said the only thing that mattered. I didn't plan this, but I'm done being the version of me that makes their lies easier to believe. We danced after they left. Derek took my hand, and we danced on the grass in borrowed string lights, while 200 people who now knew the truth clapped and cheered, and someone turned the Motown back on. I'm not a good dancer. Neither is Derek. We swayed and stepped on each other's feet and laughed, and for 5 minutes the night belonged to us the way it was supposed to from the beginning. The next morning it was Monday, and Monday meant paperwork. I filed an identity theft report with the FTC. Derek drove me to the county sheriff's office, where I filed a second report, local jurisdiction, paper trail, case number. A deputy with kind eyes and a notepad took my statement for 40 minutes. I called all 3 credit card companies, froze the accounts, initiated formal disputes. Derek walked me through each one. He does this for clients at the bank, untangling credit messes, verifying signatures. This time the client was his wife. Every card had been opened when I was under 21. None carried my signature. I changed my social security suffix, closed every account that still listed my parents' address, set up fraud alerts with all 3 bureaus. I did not call Harold. I did not text Diane. I did not explain, justify, or apologize. I didn't file the report to punish them, I told Derek that night. We were on the porch, drinking sweet tea, cicadas screaming in the dark. I filed it because $47,000 of debt wasn't mine. He nodded. And because if I didn't, they'd do it again. Maybe not to me. Maybe to Courtney's kids someday. He reached over and took my hand. We sat there until the tea was warm and the stars were out. Silence never felt so clean. Courtney called from Bali 3 days later. I was folding laundry. Her name flashed on the screen and I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the part of me that still remembered braiding her hair when she was 6. The Discover card got declined at the hotel, she said. Her voice was thin. No ring-light confidence, just panic. What did you do? I froze my accounts. My name, my credit, my decision. You're ruining everything. I have a brand deal. The resort is part of the content package. I need that card for 3 more days. Fund it yourself. You're 25. Silence. Then a sound I hadn't heard from Courtney in years. A real sob. Not the kind she performs for stories. She hung up. I set the phone on the dresser and went back to folding towels. Over the next week, the fallout hit Courtney's feed like weather. The luxury Bali content just stopped. No more infinity pool shots. No more rooftop cocktails at sunset. She posted a photo from a budget hostel with the caption, "Keeping it real," and her followers noticed. Comments started blooming under her posts. Didn't your sister just get married? Heard your parents weren't there? T, why did you skip your own sister's wedding for a vacation? Girl, the math isn't mathing. Courtney didn't respond to any of them. She privated her account for 2 days, then came back with a generic boundaries post that everyone saw right through. I watched from a distance. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt the way you feel when you watch a building you used to live in get condemned. Relief and grief, tangled up so tight you can't separate them. Diane called twice. I sent both to voicemail. The family rearranged itself in the weeks that followed. Slowly. The way tectonic plates shift, invisible at first, then suddenly everything's in a different place. Uncle Gene called me on a Wednesday evening. Gene is Harold's older brother. 64, retired electrician, never missed a foster family reunion in his life. He'd been one of the first to text me. Your parents gave you everything. I owe you an apology, he said. No preamble, no small talk. I believed your dad. I shouldn't have. Thank you, Uncle Gene. He's my brother, and I love him, but what I saw on that screen, I can't unsee it. Aunt Carol, the one who texted shame on you, mailed me a card. Inside, a handwritten note and $200 cash. For your new start. I'm sorry I didn't ask your side first. The family group chat reorganized. Gene removed Harold and Diane himself. 30 people watched it happen in real time. His message was short. Until you explain the credit cards, I don't think you should be here. No one objected. At church on Sunday, Ruth told me the pastor's sermon had been about honesty within families. She said Harold and Diane were not in attendance. They hadn't been for 3 weeks running. In a small town in Georgia, 3 missed Sundays is a statement. People notice. People talk. The Fosters, who had built their reputation on being pillars, on Diane's deviled eggs at every potluck and Harold's handshake at every fundraiser, were suddenly absent. And in a place where absence speaks louder than words, the silence around them grew thick. I didn't orchestrate any of it. The truth did the work. I just stopped covering for them. The brand deal collapsed on day 11. Courtney's Bali sponsor, a wellness supplement company, pulled the $30,000 contract after their PR team found the comment section. Someone had screenshot the projector image from the wedding. A guest had posted a shaky phone video on their private Facebook. Small towns are leaky that way. And it had made its way into a Reddit thread about family drama. 40,000 followers unfollowed Courtney in 2 weeks. Her engagement rate cratered. The algorithm, which had once handed her reach like candy, now buried her posts beneath cooking tutorials and cat videos. She flew home from Bali early, economy seat, middle row. I know because Patty saw the flight itinerary. Courtney texted Diane begging for a pickup at Hartsfield. Back home, reality set in. Every credit card Courtney had been using, for flights, hotels, content equipment, the daily seamless order that fueled her lifestyle, was in my name. All frozen, all disputed. She had no personal savings, no backup card. Her checking account held $1,100. I didn't celebrate. There's no satisfaction in watching your little sister Google how to open a bank account at 25. That's not a win. That's the receipt for a decade of someone else's parenting failure. Harold and Diane couldn't help her either. Without the cards in my name, their cash flow tightened overnight. The new roof Courtney had supposedly funded? Never happened. The money had gone to Courtney's expenses, funneled through accounts bearing my name, laundered through the fiction that it was family money being shared. The math was simple once you stripped the performance away. My parents had been running their younger daughter's lifestyle on their older daughter's credit, and now the credit was gone. Courtney called one more time, a Thursday, late, almost 11 p.m. Her voice was different, stripped down, no affect, no performance, no strategy, just tired. I knew about the cards, she said. I sat on the edge of the bed. Derek was already asleep. I didn't wake him. Not all of them, she continued. But the first one, the capital one. I was there when Dad opened it. I was 15. He said it was for emergencies. I asked whose name it was in, and he said yours, and I asked why, and he said, because Wendy doesn't need the credit right now. I thought that was normal. It wasn't normal, Courtney. I know that now. We sat in the silence for a long time. Not the hostile kind. The kind that happens when two people are standing in the same wreckage and neither knows where to step. I'm not calling to ask you to drop the report, she said. I know you won't. I'm calling because... I don't know. Because you're my sister and I used your name to pay for a life I didn't earn, and I don't know how to sit with that. I closed my eyes. I'm not ready to forgive you, I said. Maybe someday, but not today. I get it. She hung up. No drama, no tears, just a click and then nothing. I sat on that bed for a long time after, and then I cried. Not for the money, not for the wedding drama or the group chat or the credit report on the projector screen. I cried because I lost my sister a long time ago, maybe before she was even old enough to know she was being used. And this phone call was the first honest thing she'd said to me in years. Loss doesn't always arrive all at once. Sometimes it shows up dressed like a family. I keep wondering, if Courtney had told me the truth sooner, would things be different? Or did my parents build a system where both of us were trapped, just in different cages? Courtney got the golden one, I got the invisible one, but we were both locked in. What do you think? Does Courtney deserve a second chance? Or does knowing at 15 and staying silent for 10 years make her just as responsible? Tell me in the comments. 3 months after the wedding, a letter arrived. Handwritten. My father's blocky print on the envelope. No return address, but I'd know that handwriting from across a parking lot. It's the same hand that labeled every shelf in his hardware store. Wendy, you're still our daughter. This has gone far enough. 11 words. No mention of the credit cards, no acknowledgement, no apology, just a command dressed up as affection. Diane texted a week later, "Can we have Christmas together? For family?" The same phrasing she'd used in the group chat, the same packaging. Wrap the request in family and hope no one notices it's actually an instruction. I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where Derek had spread the credit report, the same one where Ruth had played the recording, and I wrote back, one letter, on paper, because some things should be permanent. Dear Mom and Dad, I will always be your daughter. But I will not be in a relationship where my name is used without my permission. My reputation is damaged behind my back, and my boundaries are treated as disobedience. When you're ready to acknowledge what happened, not explain it, not justify it, acknowledge it. I'll be here. Wendy. I sealed it, stamped it, drove to the post office myself. No response came. Not that week. Not that month. I won't pretend that didn't hurt. It did. Every holiday that passed without a call landed like a small stone in a jar I keep somewhere behind my ribs. But the jar doesn't overflow anymore, because I stopped adding my own stones to it. The guilt, the self-doubt, the voice that used to whisper, maybe you should have just moved the date. I don't need an apology to move on, but I need honesty to stay. 6 months after the wedding, we closed on a house. Small, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, a front porch with a railing that needs paint. It sits on a half-acre lot at the edge of town where the streetlights end and the fireflies begin. My credit report came back clean. Every fraudulent account disputed, investigated, and removed. Derek walked me through the final letter from Equifax like it was a diploma, which, in a way, it was. Proof that my name belongs to me again. Ruth brought a rose bush the day we moved in. Pink climbers. She planted it by the front steps and said, "Every house needs something alive that comes back every year." Patty comes for dinner every Sunday now. She brings cornbread, Diane's recipe, which she learned first and makes better. We sit at our second-hand table, the 4 of us, me, Derek, Ruth, Patty, and we talk about everything and nothing, and nobody performs, and nobody keeps score. I still work nights. I still wear scrubs that smell like hand sanitizer in other people's emergencies. I chose this job because I wanted to help people on their worst days. Turns out, I needed to learn how to show up for myself on mine. I didn't get the family I was born into. I got the family I built. And every single person at that Sunday table chose to be there. The hardest boundary I ever set was a 6-word sentence. "I'm not moving the date, Dad." And it changed everything. If you're waiting for permission to protect yourself from anyone, including the people who raised you, consider this your sign. You don't owe anyone your peace, not even family. Especially not family who borrows against your future and calls it love. That's my story. I know it's heavy, and I know some of you are sitting with your own version of it right now. A parent who controls, a sibling who takes, a family that asks you to shrink so someone else can shine. If this video made you feel seen, or angry, or a little lighter, that's exactly why I shared it. Hit subscribe if you want more stories like this, and check the description below. There's another story about a woman whose family tried to sell her house while she was deployed overseas. It's unbelievable. Thank you for staying until the end. I'll see you in the next one. It's just a chair. You can stand in the corner. Don't be dramatic, my father says. He says it in front of 53 guests, 6 weeks after my ankle reconstruction surgery, at a party I planned, I decorated, and I paid for, down to the last centerpiece. I'm standing there in a walking boot and a navy dress I picked out 3 days ago, leaning on a single crutch, watching a woman I've never met settle into my seat. She's been dating my brother for 2 weeks. What my parents don't know is that I discovered something about my bank account 3 days earlier, something that makes just a chair the least of their problems. By the end of this night, it won't be me standing in the corner anymore. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where you all are listening from. My name is Ondine. I'm 34, and I'm an event planner in Ridgemont, Pennsylvania. Now let me take you back 6 weeks before that party. To the afternoon, everything started to crack. The floor at the Hargrove Estate venue is wet from overnight rain. I'm there to measure the tent footprint for a June wedding, my biggest contract of the year. I take one step down the stone stairs near the garden terrace, and my left foot slides out from under me like someone pulled a rug. I hear the snap before I feel it. Then I feel it. Compound fracture. Left ankle. The orthopedic surgeon uses the phrase reconstructive repair 3 times during the consultation, and each time, the number attached gets larger. Surgery. 8 weeks non-weight bearing. 3 to 6 months of physical therapy. My career depends on being on my feet 10, 12 hours a day, walking venues, directing setups, sprinting across ballrooms when the florist delivers the wrong shade of white. I call my mother from the recovery room. My voice is still thick from anesthesia. I tell her what happened. Maureen Finch listens for about 12 seconds. "So you can still organize our anniversary party, right?" she says. "It's in 6 weeks. Not, 'Are you okay?' Not, 'Do you need anything?' Not even, 'That sounds painful.' Just the party, their 40th. "Yeah, Mom," I say. "I can still do the party." "Good, because your father's been looking forward to it." She hangs up. I stare at the ceiling tiles, still groggy, still numb from the waist down. The nurse comes in to check my IV. Rachel Voss, my colleague, my closest friend, is the only person sitting in the visitor's chair. She drove me to the hospital. She's the one who called my insurance company. No one from my family comes. Not that afternoon, not the next day, not once during the entire recovery. Rachel brings me soup on day 3. My mother sends a text on day 5. "Don't forget, the caterer needs a final head count by the 20th. Here's the thing about being the responsible child. Nobody ever asks how you became responsible. They just expect it. Like gravity. Like weather. 3 years ago, my parents were 3 months behind on their condo rent. Gerald, my father, had just been laid off from the paper mill outside Ridgemont. Maureen has never worked a paying job in her life. The landlord filed eviction papers on a Tuesday. By Friday, I'd bought the condo. Cash from my savings. $87,000. I put my name on the deed, set up a lease at $400 a month. Market rate is $1,400. I also opened a joint savings account, mine and Gerald's name, so they could access funds in a genuine emergency. I seeded it with $22,000. My physical therapy reserve, my safety net. In 3 years, my parents have paid rent on time exactly 0 months out of 36. Every emergency withdrawal has gone to the same place, my brother Brent. Brent's car repair. Brent's speeding ticket. Brent's bail after his second DUI. Last month, Maureen called asking for $3,200. "The water heater's shot," she said. "We'll freeze." I transferred it within the hour. 2 weeks later, Gerald mentions in passing that the water heater's been running fine all winter. Where did that $3,200 go, I start to wonder, but I'm in a walking boot, planning a party from my couch with my ankle elevated on 3 pillows, and honestly, I don't have the bandwidth to chase it. Not yet. I ask Rachel to look at the account statements when she has a minute. She's an accountant. She's thorough. "Sure," she says. "But Ondine, promise me you'll actually look at what I find." At that point, I don't know how much they've already taken. The real number won't surface until 3 days before the party. Let me tell you about Brent. My brother is 38 years old. He has never held a job longer than 6 months. He's been fired from a warehouse, a car wash, a landscaping crew, and a restaurant where he lasted 11 days before the manager caught him pocketing tips from a coworker. He's had 2 DUIs. He owes money to at least 3 people I know about, probably more I don't. He plays online poker the way some people breathe, constantly and without thinking. He has also been my mother's favorite since the day he was born. I don't say that with bitterness. I say it because it's a fact, the same way Pennsylvania is cold in February. Every time Brent wrecks something, a car, a relationship, a lease, Maureen calls me. Same script every time. "He's your brother. Family helps family." And I do. Every time. Because the alternative is listening to her cry on the phone for 45 minutes about how nobody cares about this family except me. Meanwhile, I built a business from nothing. I plan weddings, corporate events, fundraisers. I have a client list. I have a reputation. When the Rotary Club needed a gala coordinator last year, they called me. When I told my mother about the Rotary contract, $15,000, my biggest single booking, she said, "That's nice. Can you send Brent 200? He's short on groceries." I sent 200 that night. I never brought up the Rotary Gala again. Brent is currently sleeping on a friend's couch in Wilkes Barre. He's been evicted from 4 apartments. He calls our mother every week. She tells him everything is going to be fine. She tells me to fix it. Rachel calls on a Wednesday evening. Her voice is careful, quiet, the way people sound when they're about to deliver bad news. "We need to talk about your savings account," she says. "Call me when you can. It's not good." I don't call Rachel back that night. Instead, I spend 3 hours finalizing the seating chart for my parents' anniversary dinner. 8 guests at the head table. Mom, Dad, me, Brent, Aunt Donna, Uncle Ray, Great-Aunt Ruthie, and Cousin Ellen. 53 total across 7 tables at the VFW Hall on Maple Street. I designed the centerpieces myself. White hydrangeas with eucalyptus, small framed photos from my parents' wedding. I ordered a 3-tier cake from Martinelli's Bakery. I booked the caterer, chose the menu, chicken piccata or prime rib, garden salad, roasted potatoes. I printed the invitations on cream linen cardstock. Total cost, $6,500, all mine. My parents haven't contributed a single cent. Every day Maureen calls with a new demand. Never a question about my ankle, never a "how are you healing?" Just instructions. Change the font on the place cards. Add the Lombardis. Your father just remembered them. I don't want salmon. Switch it to prime rib. I make every change. I tell myself this is the last big thing I'll do for them. The final gesture. After the party, I'll step back, set limits, start fresh. I practice walking in the boot around my apartment. Left foot, crutch, right foot. The physical therapist told me the reconstruction is solid, but I need to stay off it as much as possible for another 2 weeks. I plan to sit through the entire dinner. That's the whole reason I put myself at the head table, so I wouldn't need to move. On Thursday morning, I finally call Rachel. She doesn't ease into it. "They've withdrawn $18,000 from your joint account, Ondine. 4 separate transactions over 2 months, all signed by your father." My chest goes cold. I told myself the party was the last big thing I'd do for them. I had no idea how right I'd be. Rachel reads me the transactions one by one. I sit on the edge of my bed with the phone on speaker, staring at my walking boot like it's the only real thing left in the room. March 2nd, $4,800. March 14th, $4,200. March 29th, $5,000. April 8th, $4,000. $18,000 total. That was my physical therapy fund, Rachel. I know. That account was for emergencies. I put Gerald on it in case something happened to me. A car accident, a hospital stay. That's it. I know. I call the bank. The branch manager pulls the records. Every withdrawal was signed by Gerald Finch, authorized, legal, because his name is on the account. There's no dispute process, no fraud claim. He had the right to withdraw. That was the whole point of joint access. I ask Rachel to cross-reference the dates. She finds it in under an hour. The $4,200 on March 14th went directly to Ridgemont Pawn and Trade. The same day Brent's truck was repossessed for unpaid loans. Another chunk lines up with a payment to the Luzerne County Clerk of Courts. Brent's second DUI fine, $18,000. 6 months of physical therapy my insurance won't cover. The difference between walking normally again and limping for the rest of my life. My career is standing, literally standing, on concrete floors, on grass, on gravel parking lots, for 10 or 12 hours at a stretch. Without full rehabilitation, I'm done. Ondine, Rachel says quietly. This isn't a mistake. This is a pattern. I sit with that sentence for a long time after she hangs up. Then I open my laptop and pull up the lease agreement for my parents' condo. Renewal date, April 30th, 45 days away. I haven't signed the renewal. I print the non-renewal form, just in case. I sit alone that night in my apartment. The walking boot is propped on a pillow. The non-renewal form is on the kitchen table, unsigned. The SAOK, the account statement, is next to it. Every withdrawal highlighted in yellow. I do the math. Without the $18,000. No outpatient physical therapy. My insurance covers the surgery, not the rehabilitation. I can do basic exercises at home, but the specialist program, the one Dr. Henley specifically recommended, costs $3,000 a month for 6 months. Without it, the odds of full recovery drop significantly. If my ankle doesn't heal right, I limp. If I limp, I can't run a venue setup. If I can't run setups, I lose contracts. If I lose contracts, I lose everything I've spent 12 years building. And if I stay quiet? If I swallow this the way I've swallowed every other withdrawal, every other emergency, every other lie about a water heater that was never broken? My father will keep withdrawing. There's still 7,000 left in that account. Brent will keep gambling. Maureen will keep calling. I'll keep paying for their condo, their son's mistakes, their entire lifestyle, until there's nothing left of me. Or I look at the non-renewal form, 30 days notice, legal, clean, my right as the property owner. Not an eviction, a decision not to renew a lease that's been violated 11 months out of 36. I pick up a pen, then I put it down. I'm not ready yet. I need to hear what they say first. I need to give them one chance to tell the truth. I call my mother the next morning, Sunday, 3 days before the party. I wasn't ready to make that call yet, but I folded the non-renewal form into thirds and tucked it inside my clutch, just in case. Mom, I need to ask you something about the savings account. 3 seconds of silence. I count them. What about it? Maureen says. $18,000 is gone. 4 withdrawals. Dad signed for all of them. Another pause. Then her voice shifts. The same smooth, measured tone she uses when explaining to neighbors why Brent isn't working. Controlled. Practiced. Your father and I borrowed it. We were going to tell you. It's been 2 months, Mom. We've been busy with the party. Where did the money go? Bills? The water heater replacement? You know how expensive things are right now. The water heater Dad told me was working fine? Silence. And the $4,200 to Ridgemont Pawn and Trade? That's when the tone changes. No more smooth, no more measured. Are you spying on us now? Is that what we raised you to be? I don't raise my voice. I'm reading my own bank statement, Mom. That money was a family emergency. Brent needed help. Brent always needs help. He's your brother. Gerald's voice comes from the background. He must be on speaker. Your mother's right. We'll pay it back. Let's not ruin the party over this. Pay it back how, Dad? You're on a pension. Mom doesn't work. We'll figure it out. We always do. They always do. Which means I always do. I tell them I need to go. Maureen gets in one last sentence before I hang up. Her voice drops to something hard and flat, like a door closing. And don't you dare bring this up at the party. You'll embarrass the whole family. I stare at the phone for a long time. Then I open my clutch, take out the non-renewal form, and sign it. The VFW hall on Maple Street looks exactly the way I planned it. White tablecloths, hydrangea centerpieces, a banner stretched across the far wall, 40 years of love. The string lights I ordered cast a warm amber glow across the hardwood floor. I did all of this from my couch with a broken ankle and a laptop. I arrive at 6:15, 15 minutes before the guests. Walking boot, crutch under my right arm, navy cocktail dress, hair pinned up in a twist, small pearl earrings. My clutch is tucked under my left arm. Inside it, the signed non-renewal notice, folded into thirds. The bank statement, 4 withdrawals highlighted in yellow. I zipped the clutch closed this morning and haven't opened it since. Everything I might need is in here. The hall fills quickly. Uncle Ray and Aunt Donna come in first, then the Lombardis, then Great-Aunt Ruthie, 78 years old, using a cane and still sharper than anyone else in the room. Cousin Ellen, Donna's daughter, 30, wearing a green wrap dress, spots me near the entrance and rushes over. She hugs me. You look great. Mom was worried about you. Worried how? Ellen hesitates, glances toward the head table where Maureen is smoothing a napkin. Just worried. I let it go. For now. I check the head table. 8 place cards, exactly as I arranged them. My seat is at the far end, next to Aunt Donna, close enough to be part of the family, far enough that I won't need to get up. Maureen and Gerald are already at the center, greeting people with matching smiles. They haven't looked at me once. I sit down. My ankle throbs the second I lower my weight. But I'm sitting. That's what matters. Or so I think. Ellen comes back 10 minutes later. She slides into the chair next to mine, Uncle Ray's seat, but he's at the bar, and leans in close. Okay, I need to tell you something, she says, and I don't want you to get upset. That's never a good start. Your mom told my mom you've been taking a lot of painkillers since the surgery, like a lot. I set my water glass down. What exactly did she say? She said you were dependent, that you haven't been yourself, that you might, her words, cause a scene tonight. I look across the room at Maureen. She's laughing with Gerald's cousin, one hand on his arm, the picture of warmth, the perfect hostess. At a party she didn't plan, didn't pay for, and didn't lift a finger to organize. Now I understand the looks. When I walked in, 2 of my father's aunts glanced at me sideways, then quickly away. I thought it was the boot. It wasn't the boot. Maureen built a story before I even arrived. If I say anything tonight about the money, about the account, about any of it, the narrative is already set. Ondine's on pills. Ondine's unstable. Poor Maureen, dealing with such a difficult daughter. She didn't just take my money. She took my credibility. Before I even walked through the door, I look at Ellen. I stopped taking painkillers 2 weeks after surgery. I'm on over-the-counter ibuprofen. That's it. I believe you, Ellen says. I just thought you should know. Thank you. She squeezes my hand and goes back to her seat. Aunt Donna settles in beside me, her reading glasses perched on her nose. She pats my arm without a word. I touch the clutch in my lap. The zipper is still closed, but something inside me has opened. Brent arrives 40 minutes late. He walks in wearing a wrinkled dress shirt, top button undone, no tie. Behind him is a woman I've never seen. Blonde, late 20s, floral sundress, clearly uncomfortable in a room full of strangers. She's holding his arm like she might bolt. Maureen rises from the head table like she's greeting a returning soldier. Oh, Brent, you brought someone. How wonderful. She hugs him. She hugs the woman. She beams. Everyone, this is Tiffany, Brent's girlfriend. Tiffany gives a small wave. A few people smile politely. Great Aunt Ruthie squints at her, then at Brent, then back at Tiffany, like she's working out a math problem. The problem is simple. Head table, 8 chairs, 8 people already seated. No room for a 9th. Maureen does the math faster than anyone. She turns to me. That smile, the one she saves for when she's about to ask me to shrink. Honey, can you let Tiffany sit here? She's our guest. Mom, I just had surgery. I can't stand for 3 hours. Her smile doesn't waver. There are chairs by the wall. You can sit over there. Over there is 15 feet away. A folding chair against the cinder block wall, alone. Away from the head table, away from the family, away from the dinner I paid for. Mom, I organized this entire event. I'm sitting at this table. Maureen's jaw tightens. She leans in, drops her voice, but not far enough. Half the table can hear. Don't make this difficult. She's a guest. Your family. As if family means I should always be the one who moves. I look past her at Gerald. He's watching, fork in hand, not moving. I wait for my father to say something. Gerald sets his fork down. He dabs the corner of his mouth with a napkin. Then he stands, slowly, the way he does when he wants the room to know he's about to handle something. Ondine, he says, not quietly. It's just a chair. You can stand in the corner. Don't be dramatic. The room goes still. I can hear the clink of ice in someone's glass 3 tables away. The caterer pauses mid-stride near the kitchen door. 53 people and nobody is chewing. Brent leans against the wall behind Tiffany's new chair. He shrugs. Yeah, it's not that deep. Tiffany looks down at the tablecloth. She can feel the weight of something she doesn't understand yet. From the far end of the table, Great Aunt Ruthie speaks. Her voice carries the way it always has, clear and unapologetic. That girl just had surgery, Gerald. What's the matter with you? Gerald doesn't look at her. He looks at me, waiting. I look down at my walking boot. The Velcro straps, the stiff plastic shell holding my ankle together. 6 weeks of healing, 6 weeks of planning this party from a couch. I stand up. It takes effort. The crutch catches on the chair leg. My ankle screams as my weight shifts. Aunt Donna half rises to help me, but I shake my head. I can do this myself. My clutch slips from my lap as I push back. It falls open just slightly, a flash of white paper visible inside. Aunt Donna glances at it. She says nothing. I pick it up, close it, tuck it under my arm. Tiffany sits in my chair without meeting my eyes. Gerald smooths his napkin. See? No big deal. Let's enjoy the evening. No big deal. The story of my entire life in this family. The corner is exactly as cold as it looks. I lean against the cinder block wall near the emergency exit. The crutch props under my right arm. My left ankle pulses with a dull, deep ache, the kind the surgeon warned me about. Don't stand on it for extended periods. The hardware is still settling. From here, I have a perfect view of the head table. My hydrangea centerpiece. My place card. Ondine in calligraphy I chose. Now pushed aside to make room for Tiffany's plate. Maureen is pouring wine. Gerald is slicing into prime rib. Brent is telling a story with his hands, grinning at something I can't hear. Nobody brings me a chair. Nobody offers their seat. Nobody walks over. The caterer, a woman named Janet, whose company I've hired for 4 events this year, passes with a tray. She stops, looks at me, frowns. Ms. Finch? Why are you standing? Let me get you a... I'm fine, Janet. Thank you. She hesitates, then moves on, glancing back once. 2 minutes later, Aunt Donna appears at my side. She's carrying her own plate, as if she just happened to wander over. But I know Donna. Nothing she does is accidental. This isn't right, she says quietly. And you know it. I know. What are you going to do? I look at the clutch under my arm, the paper inside it, the signature I put on that form the morning after my mother told me not to embarrass her. I haven't decided yet. Donna looks at me for a long moment. Then she says something I'll carry with me for a long time. I've watched your mother do this for 30 years. You don't owe her a corner. She walks back to her seat. I stay standing, but not for much longer. Someone clinks a glass. The room settles. Maureen stands at the head of the table, one hand pressed to her chest like she's about to deliver a eulogy. Her eyes are already glistening, a skill she's perfected over decades. I just want to say a few words, she begins. 40 years with this man, 40 years of building a family, a home, a life. She looks at Gerald. He nods, the good husband. We've been blessed with 2 wonderful children. Brent, she pauses, reaches for his hand. Who's finding his way, and who brought this lovely young woman into our lives tonight? Tiffany, welcome to the family. Tiffany smiles nervously. Brent squeezes her shoulder. I wait. And of course our friends and family who came out tonight. We're so grateful. That's it. She's done. From somewhere near the bar, Great Aunt Ruthie's voice cuts through the applause. Maureen, aren't you going to thank Ondine? She put this whole thing together. A few heads turn toward the corner where I'm standing. Maureen blinks. Her smile recalibrates. Oh, of course. Ondine helped too. Helped. Like I carried in a casserole dish. Like I showed up an hour early to set out napkins. Not like I spent 6 weeks organizing every detail from a hospital bed. Not like I wrote a $6,500 check for this room, this food, these flowers. Helped. I tighten my grip on the clutch. At that moment, I make my decision. Not out of anger, out of clarity. I stood there listening to my mother thank everyone in the room except the person who made that room possible. And I thought, have you ever been the invisible one? The one who pays, who plans, who shows up but never gets mentioned. If you've ever stood in that corner, literally or figuratively, tell me in the comments, what was your last straw? I'd really love to know. Brent finds me by the wall 10 minutes later. He's holding a beer, his third, from the look of it, and wearing the expression of someone who believes he's being generous. Don't take it personally, sis. He says it loud enough for the 2 couples at the nearest table to hear. Mom just wants everything perfect tonight. I organized everything tonight, Brent. He grins. That grin, the one that says nothing I do is serious enough to count. Yeah, well, That's kind of your thing, right? Planning parties? My thing. Like it's a hobby. Like I don't have a business license, a client roster, and a tax ID number. I don't respond. He takes a swig, satisfied, and drifts back toward the head table. But he doesn't make it there. Tiffany meets him halfway. She's got her purse strap in both hands, twisting it. Brent, she says, can I talk to you for a second? He waves her off. Not now, babe. She ignores that. She walks up to me instead. Her voice is low, uncertain. Hey. I didn't know there weren't enough chairs. Brent told me you offered to switch. He said you were fine with it. I look at Brent. He's frozen mid-step, beer halfway to his mouth. I didn't offer anything, I tell Tiffany. But it's not your fault. She stares at me. Then she turns to Brent. Her face shifts, something clicking into place. You told me she was cool about it, she says. Brent shrugs. Can we not do this right now? But the two couples at the nearest table heard every word. One woman looks at her husband. He raises an eyebrow. The cracks are starting to show, not just in my family, in the story Maureen built around it. Dinner service begins. Plates of chicken piccata and prime rib move from the kitchen to the tables in steady waves. The smell of rosemary fills the hall. I'm still standing. No chair, no table assignment, no plate. The caterer didn't set a place for me at the wall because, why would she? I'm supposed to be at the head table. Aunt Donna notices. She stands, takes her own plate, and carries it to me with a fork and knife wrapped in a napkin. Here, eat something. Maureen sees this from across the room. She's on her feet in seconds, weaving between tables with the efficiency of someone used to controlling every room she's in. Donna, don't encourage her. She says it loud enough for half the hall to catch. She's making a scene standing there looking miserable. She could sit at the kids' table if she really wanted. The kids' table. I'm 34 years old. I own the building my parents sleep in. I run a business. And my mother just told a room full of relatives I belong with the 8-year-olds. Aunt Donna doesn't flinch. Maureen, she has a broken ankle. It's not broken. She exaggerates everything. It was surgically reconstructed 6 weeks ago. She's walking, isn't she? It can't be that bad. From the head table, Gerald's voice. Can we please just eat? That sentence. That tired, dismissive, conversation-ending sentence. The verbal equivalent of a man pulling a blanket over his head. I set Donna's plate down on the nearest table. I look at the head table. At the banner. At my centerpieces. At the $6,500 worth of evening that is not and has never been about me. I open my clutch, and for the first time tonight, I reach inside. My fingers touch the edge of the paper, folded in thirds, crisp. The bank statement is beneath it, clipped to a second copy. I don't pull them out yet. I stand there, clutch open, and I look around the room one last time. The centerpieces I picked out at 6 a.m, one-handed, scrolling through a wholesale site with my ankle throbbing. The tablecloths I chose. White, not ivory, because Maureen changed her mind 3 times. The string lights I called 4 vendors to find because the first 3 were out of stock. $6,500. And she said I helped. I look at the head table. My mother's wine glass, half empty. My father's clean plate. Brent's third beer. Tiffany sitting in my seat, her napkin barely touched, looking like she wants to disappear. I think about the joint account. The empty line where $18,000 used to be. I think about Dr. Henley's face when he explained the rehab program. Serious, precise. This is the difference between full recovery and permanent limitation, Ondine. I think about my ankle, about my career, about every morning I'll wake up and feel the damage my parents funded with my own money so their son could gamble and drive drunk. If I sit back down, wherever they put me, in whatever corner they assign, I will sign that renewal in 45 days. And nothing will change. Not ever. I pull the papers from the clutch. Folded. Not yet open. I step toward the head table. The crutch taps the hardwood floor. Once, twice, 3 times. Aunt Donna watches me go. She doesn't stop me. I didn't plan a speech. I didn't rehearse. I just know that if I sit back down in their corner, I'll never stand up for myself again. The crutch makes a sound like a metronome on the old hardwood. Tap, tap, tap. A few guests near the center aisle stop eating. Forks hover, heads turn. I pass the Lombardi's table. Mrs. Lombardi nudges her husband. He sets down his wineglass. I pass Great Aunt Ruthie. She watches me with eyes that have seen 60 years of Finch family nonsense and looks like she's been waiting for this exact walk. I stop behind Gerald's chair, close enough to see the embroidered monogram on his shirt pocket, the shirt I bought him last Christmas. Maureen looks up. Her face cycles through 3 emotions in under a second. Surprise, annoyance, fear. Ondine. Her voice is a whisper that wants to be a command. Sit down. Not here. I've been standing for an hour, Mom. On a reconstructed ankle. I think I've earned the right to say something. Gerald turns in his chair. Ondine, this is not the time. When is the time, Dad? He blinks. Because I called 3 days ago and you told me to drop it. I said we'd talk after the party. No. You said, and I'll quote you, don't ruin your mother's night. The same night you're wearing a suit I bought you, eating food I paid for, at a party I organized. The hall is silent now. Not the comfortable silence of a pause between toasts. The heavy, electric silence of 53 people who all just realize something is about to happen. I place the folded papers on the table, between Gerald's water glass and Maureen's wine. The white rectangle sits there like a held breath. I'm not here to ruin your party, I say. I'm here to stop ruining myself. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. I unfold the first page. Mom. Dad. I keep my voice level, conversational, like I'm confirming a catering order. The condo you live in, who owns it? Gerald's mouth opens, closes. What does that have to do with who owns it? Silence. Maureen's fingers tighten around her wine glass stem. From 2 seats down, Great Aunt Ruthie speaks first. I thought you two owned it. They don't. I look at Ruthie when I say it, then back to the table. I bought it 3 years ago, when they were 3 months behind on rent and facing eviction. I own the property. They pay me $400 a month. Market rate is $1,400. The whispers start immediately. Low, scattered, like wind through dry leaves. Uncle Ray leans forward in his chair. Cousin Ellen's eyes go wide. A woman I barely recognize at table 6 turns to her husband and mouths something. Maureen's hand lifts from the table. Ondine, you're making this sound worse than... I'm stating facts, Mom. I tap the paper on the table. This is a 30-day non-renewal notice. Your lease expires April 30th. I'm choosing not to renew it. Gerald picks up the paper. His face drains. Not red, not angry, white. The color of a man who just realized the floor beneath him belongs to someone else and always has. You can't do this, Maureen says. Her voice cracks on the last word. That's our home. It's my property. You've been late on rent 11 out of 36 months. That's a lease violation. Gerald sets the paper down. His hand is shaking. I haven't raised my voice once. I don't plan to. The facts are loud enough on their own. But I'm not done. There's something else, I say. And I reach for the second document. The bank statement is a single page, 4 lines highlighted in yellow. I place it flat on the table so Gerald and Maureen can both see it, and I don't whisper. 6 weeks ago, I had ankle reconstruction surgery. The $18,000 I saved for physical therapy was in a joint account for emergencies. Dad withdrew every penny, 4 transactions, 2 months. The room holds its breath. Gerald stares at the yellow highlights. He doesn't touch the paper. We were going to pay it back. Where did it go, Dad? Nothing. I turn to Brent. He's leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, jaw tight. For the first time tonight, he's not grinning. It went to Brent's gambling debts, I say, and his DUI fines, and a pawn shop on Route 9. Brent's chair scrapes the floor as he stands. You don't know what you're talking about. $4,200 to Ridgemont Pawn and Trade. March 14th, the day your truck got repossessed. He sits back down, slow, like the air went out of him. The whispers in the hall are louder now. Not whispers anymore. Low voices, sharp intakes of breath, a chair creaking as someone leans forward. At table 4, a woman covers her mouth with her hand. Uncle Ray is staring at Gerald with an expression I've never seen on his face before. Tiffany looks at Brent, then at me, then back at Brent. Something in her face changes. Not anger, recognition, the slow understanding of someone who's starting to see the shape of a lie she's standing inside. From the end of the head table, Aunt Donna rises to her feet. Her voice carries across the silent room. Maureen, is this true? You took her surgery money? Maureen stands up. The tears come instantly, the way they always do, on cue, perfectly timed. She presses a napkin to her face and draws a shuddering breath. This is exactly what I was afraid of, she says. Her voice trembles. Undine has been under a lot of stress. The painkillers after her surgery, she hasn't been herself. I let the sentence land, let the room absorb it. Then I respond. I'm not on painkillers, Mom. I stopped taking them 2 weeks after surgery, ibuprofen only. Dr. Henley can confirm. Maureen shakes her head, tears streaming. You're confused, sweetheart. You don't even realize… Wait, Cousin Ellen is standing now. Her green wrap dress catches the light as she steps out from behind her chair. Aunt Maureen, you told my mom that Ondine was addicted to pills. Those were your words. You said she was out of control. A ripple moves through the hall. A low, what? From somewhere near table 3. Great Aunt Ruthie sets down her cane with a deliberate click. Maureen pivots. I never said addicted. I said dependent. There's a difference. No, Maureen. Aunt Donna's voice is flat, steady, the voice of an older sister who has had enough. You told me she was out of control. You said it on the phone last Tuesday. I wrote it down because I didn't believe you. Now I know why. The napkin drops from Maureen's hand. Her face, still wet, flushes red, not from crying, but from the recognition that her safety net, the story she wove to protect herself, just unraveled in front of everyone she was trying to impress. You're all taking her side? Her voice pitches upward. After everything I've done for this family? Nobody answers. The silence says everything. Gerald stands. He raises both hands, palms out, the universal gesture of a man who thinks he can still control the room by appearing calm. Everyone, please. This is a family matter. Let's handle it privately. You had a chance to handle it privately, Dad. I keep my voice even. 3 days ago, you told me to drop it. I said we'd discuss it after… No. You said, don't ruin your mother's night. The same night you're wearing a suit I bought you, eating a meal I paid for, in a building I decorated. I'm done being private about the people who robbed me. Great Aunt Ruthie wraps her cane on the floor. Once, the sound cuts through everything. Gerald, did you take that girl's money or not? He looks down at the table, at the bank statement, at the yellow highlights. He doesn't answer. Ruthie nods slowly. That's all I need to hear. Brent shoves his chair back. This is insane. She's being dramatic. She's always dramatic. And then a quiet voice from his right. Tiffany. Brent? She's not looking at him. She's looking at the table. You told me she offered her chair. You said she was fine with it. Tiffany, stay out of… That wasn't true, was it? He doesn't answer either. The silence runs in the family. Tiffany picks up her purse from the back of the chair, my chair, and stands. She doesn't say goodbye to Brent. She doesn't say anything else at all. She just walks toward the far end of the hall and sits down next to Great Aunt Ruthie, who pats her hand once without a word. The head table now has an empty seat. The irony isn't lost on me. I point to the non-renewal notice still sitting in front of Gerald. That is a 30-day non-renewal. Your lease expires April 30th. I won't be renewing it. You have 30 days to find a new place. Maureen grabs the edge of the table. You can't throw us out. We're your parents. I'm not throwing you out. I'm declining to renew a lease that's been violated. Chronically late rent, unauthorized access to my finances, and $18,000 withdrawn without my knowledge or consent. Where are we supposed to go? Gerald asks. His voice has gone small. Smaller than I've ever heard it. That's not my problem anymore, Dad. I've been solving your problems for 10 years. I'm done. The words come out clean. No tremor, no tears. Not because I'm not hurting. I am. But the hurt isn't new. It's 10 years old. I've just been carrying it quietly until tonight. One more thing, I say. I called the bank this morning. Gerald, your name has been removed from the joint account. Any further withdrawals will require my authorization only. Gerald looks at Maureen. Maureen looks at the room. The room looks at me. I pick up the bank statement and the non-renewal notice, fold them, place them back in the clutch. I paid for this party. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the cake. I paid for your condo. I paid for Brent's fines and Brent's debts and Brent's mistakes. The only thing I'm not paying for anymore is my own silence. I snap the clutch shut. The sound is small, a tiny metallic click. But in a room this quiet, it sounds like a door closing. And maybe it is. Aunt Donna is the first to stand. She's been sitting with the patience of someone who has waited a very long time for this moment. I'm ashamed I didn't say something sooner. She looks directly at Maureen. You've been using this girl since she was 24 years old, and I watched. That's on me. Great Aunt Ruthie raises her cane an inch off the floor and lets it fall, her version of a gavel. Gerald, I'm calling your brother Harold tomorrow. He needs to know exactly what you've done with that money. Brent pushes away from the table. He doesn't speak. He grabs his jacket from the back of his chair and heads for the exit, not looking at anyone. Tiffany does not follow. She stays in her seat next to Ruthie, hands in her lap, very still. Maureen is crying now. Not the strategic tears from earlier. These are real, ragged, the sound of someone whose script has been torn in half. You're destroying this family, Ondine. I look at her. My mother, the woman who raised me, the woman who told 53 people I was a pill addict so they wouldn't believe me when I told the truth. No, Mom, I'm leaving it. There's a difference. At tables across the hall, people are standing, murmuring, reaching for coats. Uncle Ray shakes his head slowly. Two of Gerald's co-workers from the mill quietly collect their wives and move toward the door. But a few come toward me, Gerald's cousin Frank, a neighbor from Elm Street. They put a hand on my shoulder. A quick squeeze. They don't need to say the words. Gerald doesn't stand. He sits in his chair at the head of a table that no longer feels like the head of anything, staring at the folded paper in front of him. You can cry, Mom, I say, but you can't rewrite what happened, not tonight. I collect my crutch, tuck the clutch under my arm, and I walk toward the door. The walk takes longer than it should. The boot, the crutch, the hardwood floor that I spent 2 phone calls negotiating to rent, because Maureen wanted a hall with real floors, not that rubber nonsense. Every step echoes. Nobody stops me. Aunt Donna catches up near the exit. She's carrying her coat and her purse, like she'd already planned to leave the moment I did. You need a ride? Rachel's outside. Donna nods. Call me tomorrow. I mean it. I will. She hugs me, carefully, avoiding the crutch, one hand on the back of my head. The kind of hug my mother used to give me when I was very small, before she figured out which child was useful and which one was lovable. I push through the double doors into the parking lot. The air hits my face. Cold, sharp, late April Pennsylvania. The sky is clear and dark and full of stars that don't care about anniversary parties. Rachel is parked 3 spots from the entrance, engine idling, window down. She looks at me over the top of her reading glasses. How'd it go? I lower myself into the passenger seat. Every joint in my body exhales. I don't have a family dinner to go to anymore. Rachel puts the car in drive. You have a physical therapy appointment Monday. That's a start. I almost laugh. Almost. As we pull out of the lot, I look back at the VFW hall through the rear window. The banner is still visible through the glass doors. 40 years of love. The string lights still glow. The party is still technically happening. But it isn't mine anymore. And for the first time, that feels right. I drove away lighter than I'd felt in 10 years. The calls start the next morning. Maureen's first. I let it ring to voicemail. She leaves a 2-minute message, half crying, half accusing. You humiliated us. You humiliated your father. I hope you're proud of yourself. Then she calls Aunt Donna, then Uncle Ray, then every cousin, in-law, and second cousin she can reach. The script is familiar. Ondine overreacted. Ondine is unstable. Ondine needs help. It doesn't work. Too many people were in that room. Too many of them saw me standing on a broken ankle while a stranger sat in my chair. Too many of them heard Gerald say, "It's just a chair," and watched Maureen call me a pill addict when the bank statement was on the table. You can't rewrite a story 53 people watched happen. Aunt Donna calls me at noon. Your mother called me crying. I told her the same thing I'm telling you. She brought this on herself. Cousin Ellen texts. I'm sorry I didn't say more. I should have. Love you. Great Aunt Ruthie, who uses Facebook the way she uses a cane, with precision and force, posts in the family group that evening. What I saw last night broke my heart. Not because of what Ondine did, because of what was done to her. That girl deserved better from her parents. Shame on whoever disagrees. 14 reactions within an hour. All hearts. Gerald sends me one text on Monday. Can we talk? I don't respond. Not yet. I'm not punishing him. I'm just not ready. There's a difference. By Tuesday, the count stands at 4 family members who've reached out to support me directly. 2 who've told Maureen they need space. 1 who uninvited her from a May baptism. The corner is empty now, and I'm not the one standing in it. The practical math is brutal and simple. Gerald's pension from the mill pays $1,900 a month. Maureen has no income. At $400 a month, my condo was a lifeline they never acknowledged. At market rate, $1,400, they can't afford it. And I'm not renewing the lease regardless. By mid-May, they find a 1-bedroom apartment in Dunmore, 20 minutes farther from town. It's smaller, older. The hallway smells like carpet cleaner. Gerald carries boxes in silence. Maureen, I'm told, cries through the entire move. I'm not there for it. I'm not invited, and I don't ask. Brent disappears for 2 weeks after the party. His phone goes straight to voicemail. Tiffany, I learned from Ellen, broke up with him the following morning. She said she couldn't trust a single thing he told her, Ellen reports. Smart girl. No one in the family offers Brent money anymore. Not because they all suddenly hate him, but because now they know where the money goes. Awareness is a powerful disinfectant. 3 weeks after the party, Gerald calls. Not a text this time. A call. His voice is low, stripped of the authority he wore like that monogrammed shirt. I made a mistake, Ondine. I know, Dad. I should have told you. I should have asked. You should have. But a mistake is once. This was a system. Long pause. I hear him breathing. What do you need from me? He asks. $18,000. I'll accept a payment plan. $300 a month from your pension. It'll take 5 years. Okay. And Dad, don't ever sign your name to my accounts again. Okay. It's not forgiveness. It's not reconciliation. It's a starting line. The first honest transaction between us in a decade. I'll take it. The physical therapy clinic on Grant Street has fluorescent lights and a faint smell of rubbing alcohol. It's not glamorous. But when Dr. Henley reviews my intake and says, "We can start the full program next week," I nearly cry in the waiting room. I pay for the first month with what's left in my personal savings, plus the first installment from Gerald. $300, deposited on time. I check twice. My ankle responds to therapy the way soil responds to rain, slowly, then all at once. By week 3, I'm bearing partial weight without the boot. By week 6, the crutch becomes a cane. By week 8, the cane stays in the car. My business doesn't skip a beat. I land a corporate retreat contract the week after the party, then a graduation dinner, then a small wedding in Scranton. Clients don't know about my family. They know me as the woman who shows up early, stays late, and makes sure every napkin is folded the right way. Aunt Donna becomes the family I chose. She drives me to therapy on Tuesdays when my schedule is tight. Cousin Ellen stops by on weekends with coffee and terrible reality television. One afternoon, I find a letter in my mailbox, handwritten. Maureen's looping cursive on cream stationery. You broke our family, Ondine. I hope someday you understand what you did. I read it once. Fold it. Place it in the kitchen drawer with the old lease and the bank statement. I don't write back. My mom wrote that I broke the family. And honestly, part of me wondered, did I? Or did I just stop holding together something that was already broken? I think a lot of us carry that weight, the fear that setting a boundary means being the villain. Have you ever been told you were too much for simply protecting yourself? I'd really love to hear your story. Share it in the comments. I want to be honest about something. For 10 years, I told myself that giving was the same as loving. That if I just paid enough, helped enough, showed up enough, eventually they'd see me. Not as the planner, not as the fixer, not as the ATM, just as Ondine. It never happened. And the reason is simple. I wasn't buying love. I was buying permission to exist in my own family. And that's a price no one should ever have to pay. I don't tell you this to lecture. I tell you because I wish someone had told me, earlier, louder, that generosity without boundaries isn't generosity. It's a transaction where one person pays and the other takes, and the person paying always runs out first. My parents aren't monsters. I want to be clear about that. They're people who made choices, selfish, small, damaging choices, and built a system that worked for everyone except the person holding it up. Gerald chose silence because it was easier than honesty. Maureen chose Brent because admitting he failed meant admitting she failed. And I chose to keep writing checks because the alternative was standing in the silence and feeling the absence. But here's what I learned standing in that corner, leaning on a crutch in a room I paid for. The absence was already there. It had been there for years. I just couldn't feel it because I was too busy filling it with money. Setting a boundary isn't selfish. It's the first honest thing I ever did for myself. Not the cruelest, the most honest. I didn't walk away because I stopped loving them. I walked away because I started loving myself enough to stop standing in corners. And that was the beginning. 4 months later. My ankle is at 80%. I walked 2 miles yesterday without pain, the first time since the accident. I wore heels to a client meeting last Saturday. Low heels, but still. Heels. My physical therapist high-fived me, which is the medical equivalent of a standing ovation. The condo is rented. New tenant, a young couple, first home together. They pay $1,400 a month on the first of every month and have never once asked me to fund their brother's gambling habit. Gerald has made 3 payments, on time, each one deposited quietly, without commentary. We talk on the phone occasionally, short calls, 5 minutes, maybe 7. We don't discuss Maureen. We don't discuss Brent. We talk about the weather, the Phillies, and whether the diner on Main Street changed their coffee blend. It's not warm, but it's honest. And honest is more than I had before. Maureen hasn't reached out since the letter. I hear through Ellen that she's adjusting to the Dunmore apartment. That she tells people I went through a difficult time. Her version of history will always be different from mine. I've accepted that. Brent moved somewhere. Allentown, maybe. Nobody's sure. Nobody's asking. Last Sunday, I organized a birthday party. Aunt Donna's 59th. Small. 20 guests. Backyard barbecue. Paper plates. Christmas lights strung between 2 oak trees. And at the head of the table, right at the center, there was a chair with my name on it. Not a place card. Just Ellen, grinning, patting the seat. Saved you a spot. I sat down. First one seated, last one to leave. Nobody asked me to move. Nobody suggested I'd be more comfortable somewhere else. The first party I planned where I actually got to sit at the table. If you're standing in someone's corner right now because they told you that your comfort doesn't matter, that your pain isn't real enough, that your contribution isn't worth a seat at their table, I want you to hear this. The chair was never just a chair. It was a test. Every time they asked me to move, to shrink, to stand aside, they were testing whether I'd keep choosing them over myself. And for 10 years, I passed that test, every single time. The night I failed, it was the night I finally got it right. I'm not telling you to cut off your family. I'm not telling you to burn bridges or make scenes at anniversary parties. Every situation is different. Every family has its own gravity. But I'm telling you this, when your health, your finances, and your dignity are under attack, and the people attacking them are the ones who are supposed to protect you, a boundary isn't optional. It's survival. I don't carry anger anymore. I carry clarity. I know what I'm worth, and I know what I'm willing to pay. Those 2 numbers finally match. And for the record, my ankle is doing great. I wore heels last Saturday for the first time in 6 months. Proper heels, 3 inches, navy blue to match the dress I bought myself. They were spectacular. Thank you for staying with me through this. If this story meant something to you, hit subscribe and that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. I've linked another story in the description that I think you'll connect with. It's about someone who was told they owed their family everything until they found out what their family really owed them. Go check it out. And remember, your peace is not negotiable. I'll see you in the next one.